Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. The minority in Parliament has this afternoon waded into the controversy surrounding the decision by the bulk oil and storage transportation company BOST to sell off some 5 million litres of contaminated fuel rather than treating it. The members of Parliament are demanding the immediate interdiction of the Managing Director of BOST. They're also questioning the deal, handing the products to waste oil dealer Movempena, a company they claim was incorporated after the agreement had been sealed. We'll hear from them shortly and bring in our parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo. But BOST has been fighting off claims by think tank African Center for Energy Policy ACEP that it failed to protect the consumer in the move to dispose of the oil. We can first listen to Ben Boachi, who's the executive director of ACEP, speaking earlier on the Super Morning Show.
As a national institution or company has the responsibility to ensure that the consumer is protected, and it's based on that national security interest and the interest of the consumer that we have BOST to ensure that we have a strategic stock. And also, if you have a product that is not wholesome or that cannot be consumed by the public, you have a duty of care to ensure that under no circumstances would that product find its way onto the market.
Right.
So we're talking about 5 million litres of off-spec product. And I mentioned that no businessman would devalue that product and sell it when you can easily treat it and sell it at the market value.
Right.
And in this case, treatment is just by an option that you have is to add more of a product to make it wholesome. So that was, I mean, the best business decision anybody would want to take. But BOST decided that they would rather sell it off. And I've heard some excuses, some explanations that they needed to create space for BDCs. And therefore, they didn't have to wait for 10 months to do that. But that argument, for me, doesn't sit well with me. Your first responsibility is to the Ghanaian people to ensure that the product is safe and can be consumed in the right way possible. So you have to analyze it from all angles to be able to take that critical decision. So the company that you are selling to, you have to make sure that that company can actually dispose of the product appropriately, ensure that they have the capacity to store it. And even the most important point here to make is that BOST's responsibility is not to provide spaces for BDCs. BOST's responsibility is to store strategic stocks.
While speaking on the same program, Media Relations Manager for BOST, Nana Ekia Obey, insists that the decision taken was a good one from a business perspective. She also assured the quantity handed the company so far is not on sale in the open market.
So we have three options. The first option was to have a corrective treatment of the off-spec product at all. But then it was not possible, and even now. Anybody who knows WhatsApp in codes should know that it all is not refining, then and now. The second option was that for every 10 million litres of the correct spec product that you and I can put in our vehicles, we need about 70,000 litres of the off-spec product, what people are calling out there contaminated. You know, we prefer to use the right term, it's called the off-spec. We need about 70,000 litres of the off-spec product.
10 million gallons.
Per 10 million litres. To inject into it. And if you do the calculation, it was going to take BOST 10 solid good months. If we have time, I would
dilute it until it becomes spec, if you like.
So for every 70,000 litres of the off-spec products, it was going to take BOST 10 months. So ideally, from a business point of view, that was out of the equation. And the third one was to sell off the off-spec, which is not something new, which has happened before. The 10,000 that has gone out, Zoop Oil came 100,000. The 100,000, sorry, is actually there.
Where?
They have taken it out to the various steel companies. That's what they are supposed to be. That's where they are supposed to be taken to. It's not something for it to be. Okay, Kojo, so these OMCs come to us, the BDCs come to us, and they sell it. We use our tracking system to check whether they've gone out to obscure or wrong places. That is the normal thing.
So you have evidence, you have tracking evidence that this stuff has gone to specific places, the 100,000 litres. You know where all of it has gone? No, the tracking system will tell you?
Yes, the tracking is supposed to tell us that now the tracking system has not come up with any fishy places or obscure places.
Media Relations Manager for BOST there. Well, the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, however, remain dissatisfied with these explanations so far. Senor Jose insists that the product is indeed on the market.
Presentation that 100,000 liters has been delivered through Zoop Oil or whatever is absolutely untrue. The next thing we have to ask, Zoop Oil not licensed. It can't even have the capacity to store any kind of thing. There's no tank farm you have sitting in Ashama or whatever was mentioned. For you to have a 5 million liter storage capacity, that's practically over 4,000 metric tons. Do you see what you have at the airport?
Yes.
You see what you have at the airport, that tank farm. About half of that is what you should be seeing out there. So let's all just cut this. You have a real problem. You may have genuinely made a mistake. Let's work at trying to allay the concerns of the consumer by correcting them. Let's not be misleading them.
So we'll stay with this matter a while longer. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo will join me very soon in the studio. But right now I have the executive secretary for the Petroleum Consumers Chamber in the studio. Duncan Amwa, you're welcome.
Gifty, thank you. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your viewers.
All right, thank you very much for making the time to spend with us. You've already issued an alert about this. I'm not sure how well enough it will help people to be aware, and even if they're aware, what they can actually do. But then, how do you know that you're buying fuel that's contaminated?
Gifty, once again, thank you. Indeed, the public ought to know. It is sad that if you watch the media landscape since last week, all we have had is some attempts, show of bravado by BOST to insist that they have done a yeoman's job. Ghanaians should applaud them. First time in the history of Ghana, we are dumping so much contaminated product onto the system, and the excuse is that we have sold this one for much better than slop, which is the dirtiest part of, or the residual part of a tank when you clean the tank, right? BOST is happy, going to town looking for all kinds of explanations. Some do not sound to the ear, but unfortunately, it seems as though, as it is today, where we have gotten to, the only thing that BOST can tell Ghanaians is that they have done very well. We should applaud them. Meanwhile, Gifty,
I mean, they're not saying that
contaminated.
they're not saying we should applaud them. I mean, if you listen to them, I think they're basically trying to provide some answers to the questions, some of the questions that you raised. Does it not suffice to you when they say that, first of all, they say it's not on the market? Does it not suffice to you?
Gifty, I personally have had some encounters with some consumers.
Tell me about it.
Where people, what is with the contaminated product? When you come into contact with it, your car would not take more than 2 kilometers to detect. Sometimes you may have some in your reserve tank, so but the moment it goes to mix with your product, your car will give a reaction. I have even heard Ben Boache, the ASEP Executive Director,
right,
say he had a personal experience, right? The other situation, the counter of it, is where one would have said BOST to say all the products that we discharged last week, totaling some 421,000 liters, all that we discharged is in this tank here. It's physically verifiable. Okay. We can go with ASEP, can go with the media,
to go and check
that indeed what you have discharged, the bad product, is still, safe somewhere, and the public shouldn't worry. If that mechanism was in place, I'm sure BOST would not even struggle to defend. They would have taken all of us there by now. But I can confirm to you that quite a sizable amount of the product is already gone. And if you ask them,
people have bought them,
it's already gone
into their cars.
Yes, it's already gone onto the market. So if you ask them today to account for it, they are given a contradictory figure that all that has gone out is about 100,000. I can give you way bills here and now that proves 421,000 is what went out last week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday it was halted. The other bit, initially they tried to indict the NPA and suggested the NPA was aware. The NPA had even authorized. The NPA had suggested they should use BRVs with tracking equipment. No problem using a BRV with tracking equipment. But if you had done a post-sale analysis for a product of that size, 5 million liters, Gifty, let me help your viewers.
Please.
I mean, one V8, a big V8, would consume about 90 liters at a go. That's if you start from 0 to full.
Right.
And so if you decided to fuel 10,000 V8s, 10,000 individual pieces of V8, what you will get is 900,000 liters. Gifty, we are not talking of 1 million. We're not talking of 2 million. We are not talking of 3 million. We're not talking of 4. We are talking of 5 million liters. It is that huge, you know, a volume. And for BOST to come out quickly to defend and to suggest to the public that what they did in our interest was that they gave 5 million contaminated products. Gifty, I wouldn't want them to go back on semantics and come back to say this is off spec. We understand terminologies very well. This is a contaminated product. I mean, fair and square. And so we are saying that if you release 5 million liters or purport to release 5 million liters to a company that has no storage, known storage, Gifty, what you are invariably telling us is that the company should take and go and sell. Because the company doesn't have any tank, known tank, that we can physically verify. We know of Sahara, we know of Chase Petroleum, we know of Fuel Trade, we know of those bigger players that have the tanks. If BOST insists Movimpina has storage to be able to hold the products until they are able to sell to the designated people, let them go and show us.
So the idea was that they were giving this to the company to hold on to it, but then they ended up selling it.
Indeed, if you are disposing of contaminated products and you insist, some selected or specific industries might have a use for them. I do not think the biggest 10 industries in Ghana, if you put them together, will consume 5 million liters in 1 month. I do not think.
Okay.
We do not have that kind of capacity. Like I've indicated, most machines that are even big, 100,000 liter volume will take quite a long time to consume. And so when you have 5 million going to Movimpina that has no known storage capacity, what you are telling all of us is that they should load their products into the BRVs or the oil trucks, right? Go and keep the trucks for as long as it takes any of the companies. And that is not feasible in business. It doesn't make sense. So what we know is that no post-sales analysis was done on this transaction, or else BOST would have been advised differently. Unfortunately, they are on the defense now, trying to throw dust into our eyes. We know way better, and we are telling them that this was a bad deal, it was bad transaction, not grounded in any of the oil principles. So I was not surprised to hear Senor insist that what they are putting out there cannot be true, and some portion of the product is already out there.
But then again, what do you, how do you validate that? I mean, with what evidence do you validate the claim that these are being that this fuel is on the market?
Gifty,
because they are saying it's not.
I say now that you in a green and a black dress, right? The counter evidence is that, oh no, what I'm wearing is white.
Okay,
that's
so
the
show
counter
me.
evidence.
Is that
so? Then you would show me what the count, because you have sold the product.
Right.
You know where the product, according to your tracking devices, you should know where the product has gone to. As we speak today, ask BOST to account for the 421,000 liters that went out Monday, Tuesday. They would not be able to account for it. And so, if you don't also help to fuel speculation that indeed the products are being sold as we speak, what else are you doing? A responsible company like BOST shouldn't engage in such acts. But unfortunately, what we have now is a mumbo-jumbo attempt to bundle everything. Now they are not even calling it contaminated anymore. They are calling it off-spec. Let me educate them. When you say off-spec, even RON 93 could be off-spec for a country, depending on the spec they have.
What does that mean?
You see, petroleum has standards.
Right.
So if you have an octane number rating, what you call RON, Ghana does RON 91 for minimum, right? The higher the RON number,
which is something the NPA is looking to change, right?
Yes. Now the NPA is looking to go even better,
right?
With the diesel sulfur standards. So Some countries could have RON 93 minimum. The higher the RON number, the better the product. So Ghana may be at 91. But what we are using here may be off-spec to a country that does RON 93.
Okay.
So if somebody brings RON 89, it might not be contaminated, but it's off-spec. Let them get the difference clear. When you say contaminated, other, unnecessary substances have been mixed with the product.
So why,
and that makes it harmful.
What gives you the impression that it is contaminated and not off-spec, as you claim they're saying it is now?
Their own vouchers, their own loading vouchers, which I would send you a copy here and now.
Okay, we'll be glad to show it to our viewers as well.
Goes to say contaminated product, CONT-PORD, right? What they were using to load the trucks.
Okay.
So if they come back to say it is off-spec, it's an afterthought.
Okay.
What really happened, if you heard the MD himself on some platform saying, was that the product got contaminated at some point in BOST. And he says it even got contaminated before he came. So that is, a known fact that we don't even need to defend. So what they are putting out there is harmful substance that should not get into people's vehicles. Okay. What other mechanisms did BOST put in place to ensure that what I'm selling to Gifty would not go and sell to a minor? Because what I'm selling, a minor doesn't need to have.
Right.
Unfortunately, BOST hasn't done any such thing. So I am just selling to you. Whatever you choose to do with it, do with it.
I see.
And resale value is higher on the open market, because what happens with this product, Gifty, is that
they sell it, they get to buy it for at a cheaper price. Gifty, is that so?
Let me explain. BOST has caused financial loss to the company itself, to the state, and to the people. Financial loss to the company itself, to the state, and to the people. The company, a product that could have been sold on the open market for 1 cedi 78 pesos, right? From BOST's point, is today being sold at 1 cedi or 1 cedi 30 pesos. So per each liter, BOST is losing almost 50 pesos. Multiply 50 pesos by the 5 million liters. That alone is 2.5 million Ghana cedis. Government would have made, some taxes off, the volume. Now, because we are selling it contaminated, it means government has no tax, not one, on the product. Okay. And so if you do government tax of the total amount, you are arriving at over 7 million. So between what BOST is losing as an entity, what government is losing, and what those of us at the end chain, the consumers will be losing. If you put all of it together, Gifty, some of us are looking at the region of 40 million. Because engines are likely to suffer when they come into contact with this contaminated substance. Okay. If 421,000 goes out, even divide that by the 90 volume that we did, you are doing almost 5,000 V8s.
So they're basically causing financial loss. Let's wrap up this conversation, and but let me find out from you what you make of what Parliament is doing about this. The minority in Parliament, of course, are asking for the head of the MD.
Indeed,
does that suffice?
We believe some arrests should have been made by now. It's a national, crisis where a company is supposed to be responsible. If you recall, not long ago, BP had this spillage issue. Yeah, they were made to pay through the skin of their teeth. And that was because some, fishes and whatever in the sea could be affected, and people's lives were affected. You know, that was even not too direct to the human being. But this is where Ghanaians are going to be fed, or are being fed, or are speculated or alleged to be fed by contaminated products. Right. And BOST is busy defending this sort of sales. So you should recall the product. If the government can issue cause some arrest, those technical people that advise the MD that indeed Movinpina has capacity, so let's sell 5 million when Movinpina doesn't have a single tank, not even a 4 gallon. Then indeed what they have done to all of us is putting fear in us, is making sure the state loses revenue, making sure BOST itself also suffers costs. It could have recovered if they had gone to do cleaning or blending of the product. Unfortunately, none of these made sense to BOST and its officials. They are still on the defense. We'll continue to talk about these issues.
Interesting the way you've taken this matter, but of course it is an important issue to all of us, because we all use vehicles. And how do you even know? That's really my fear. Thank you very much for passing through. Duncan Amwa is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Thank you very much for coming. How do you know, actually, is the question that I keep asking, that you've been buying contaminated fuel? Do people even care, or are they rather alarmed by this revelation? Let's hear from some drivers.
Martin Wasem. And once a Martin, so much as a beer by Joshua, I say, a macan saying tentem.
I've heard about it. I've heard there's a new kind of fuel which can cause damage to your car. But how do you know which fuel station can cause the damage? That's why I buy my fuel from Girl. I trust them. I once bought contaminated fuel from my hometown, and it destroyed my engine after 2 years. That was very easy to spot. But here in Accra, it will be difficult to tell which fuel is contaminated.
For any day, but the
way to tell the difference between good and contaminated fuel is the response of the engine. When the fuel is contaminated, the engine response is different. For me, I buy from Goyle. I trust them.
Martin, this is no number me to go filling station.
Fuel be by the Disney way afra abokrum. But minim ya ya try a filling station and e bugu.
I just heard of the contaminated fuel this morning, but I cannot tell if the fuel I buy is contaminated or not. As a result, our engines have been breaking down very often. Those days, we were able to detect bad fuel by its scent, but now, because of the way it's sold, there's no way you can tell.
First, you decrease in the front. Ubuma, what is sentence say? We're creasing room.
Omokano, I just say, be our now, she but me, my two fuel station be the engine and Chawakani.
There is no way of telling which fuel is contaminated and which is not. But bad fuel finishes quickly. At my preferred station, the fuel is good. I've been driving a taxi for 7 years, and this is what I've observed.
Oh, almost 7 years ago, I started to fuel. I started to taxi.
First, I'm a ton of goy. But me share goy liters, and I'm a puma liters. Now, it's mostly puma, the no or less.
I choose where to buy my fuel based on the cost. I am able to detect the quality by its color. I think the red fuel is best for my car. If the fuel is white, my car jacks when I use it.
Red wine, and I sometimes mimic. Se me to sa type na se ni fitana ubosi ejete sa be se me de me to sa na ni red ne dia me hu se sa jet no me hu. Okay,
those are some drivers there. It's jetting, whichever way you can understand what they mean. But anyway, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, our parliamentary correspondent, joins me in the studio right now with what the minority have been saying. He has all of the details. Gakpo, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's been a while since I had you on the show.
I'm here today.
Take us through the reasons why the minority believe that interdicting the MD of BOST is the way to go.
They think it's a very corrupt deal that was undertaken under the watch of the Managing Director, Alfred Obeng. They outlined a number of issues. For example, they are claiming that the company which actually bought the fuel from BOST is a company that's linked directly to him. They mentioned the director of the company and claimed that he's a partner, a business partner of the current MD of BOST, and go ahead to make a claim that when they checked at the level of the Registrar General's Department, they found out that the telephone number and the address that the company used to register and open and begin operating here in Ghana is a company that has been registered, and the address is that of the private office of the Managing Director. That's how come they claim he's corrupted. They go on to claim that, again, the company was actually incorporated on the 29th of May, on the 29th of May, but then they put in the proposal to get this particular fuel on the 19th of May, 10 days after, which means when they went ahead to do this, they hadn't actually been incorporated as a company. They claim that there has been a 14.5 million cedis financial loss to the state. I've been speaking to Ato Forsen, who is the minority spokesperson on finance. He's been giving the breakdown of how come they think that is the amount involved, and they want the Auditor General to retrieve this amount from the managers at BOST. All right, well, we can hear from the minority spokesperson on finance now.
14.25 million Ghana cedis. It's a simple calculation. We look at how much it was sold and how much the pump price is. So it was sold to this company, Movipina, at a price of 1 Ghana cedis per liter. Movipina is selling it at 3 cedis and 85 pesos. The change is actually 2.85. 2.85 Ghana cedis times an amount. The quantity of 5 million liters will give you 14.25 million. I concede that aspect of it are taxes. But the question, and that is why we are asking GRA to come in, have they paid the requisite taxes? So we need to know.
Do you get the sense they haven't?
So no, this is a company that's not been registered. How would GRA even got to know of them? It's a company that's not registered, a company that is not regulated. So it is difficult that for us to sit here and conclude. It is for that reason that we are saying that we are asking GRA to ensure that the taxes that should have been accrued to the state are actually collected.
Final clarification, do you have evidence to back the claim that this is on the market to have gone for the price of 3.8 cedis that you're quoting? Because at least from the document that we've seen, it's the 1 cedi and the 1.3 cedis which has been quoted as.
But it's
how far they went to the transaction?
Yes, we have evidence to suggest, and it's public information, that they sold it at 1 cedi.
But you don't have evidence to suggest that it was eventually sold at the 3.8.
But you know it's been sold. You know it's been sold. If you buy product, what are you going to? Are you going to keep it in your home? You won't keep that 5 million liters of product in your home. You can. You definitely sell it. So where is it? And at what price are they selling it? It's for you and I to pay.
Here's Lato Forson speaks for the minority when it comes to finance. And Gakpo, you're still here with us. What more have they been saying? They still have some more demands?
Yes, they're insisting that when it comes to the processes that allowed for the company moving Pena to actually take over this contract, it didn't go through the procurement procedures as is required by law, and so that's a breach that they want the NPA to look into and apply the adequate sanctions. The minority, Emmanuel Amakofibua, the minority spokesperson on energy, is claiming that they had given the indication that they wanted to release this fuel onto the market, and the NPA directed them not to go ahead and do that. But he sees a situation where that directive has been defied. Another confirmation, they say, of the alleged corrupt practices. They are demanding the withdrawal of the product from the market because they are concerned it could lead to road accidents, because it could lead to the breakdown of engines, which is something that they are really concerned about. And then the final bit, they are asking that as soon as possible the MD be interdicted, and that the president should issue the full-scale probe into his activities and ensure that everything that may have gone wrong with this deal is actually brought to light.
So far, has there been any responses from the majority?
Officially, no. But the interesting bit is that I can tell you that some of them that I interact with, they laugh off the allegations, not laugh it off as in thing that is not entirely accurate, but they appear a little surprised about it, and they think that even at the surface, they appear a little convinced that this is something that the regulators need to look into because it's scandalous. That's the word that one of them used that I interacted with.
That it was scandalous. Yes. I see. What else has been happening in Parliament?
The Minister for Interior was in the House earlier today. There was a question about the efforts that are being undertaken to provide police stations to various districts across the country. And Ambrose Derry has been indicated that that work is ongoing. There is a transformational agenda that has been undertaken with regards to the Ghana Police Service to increase the numbers. He indicated that they are targeting ensuring that every electoral area has at least 8 police persons there, and that as much as possible, all areas that don't have police stations get them to ensure adequate protection.
Joseph Opoku Gakpo, always our man with the details and always on point. Thank you very much for passing through, and stop giving me that smile. It's not real.
It doesn't matter.
All right, we'll still stay with the minority a while longer.